Okay, so this is an example of an Akashic Records reading that I do. It's different every time, obviously, but
I could only hope. It'd be really sad if they had to keep telling you over and over,
the same
like
story.
7 times, you're not getting it.
So I'd like to thank you, Michael, for actually being like open and vulnerable to record this. But of course, for our viewers, for whom it's interesting, what an Akashic Records reading looks like. If you guys see any kind of editing around here, so I'd like to kind of reserve the right to edit some stuff out in case something gets personal. Then I'll just cut out a piece of the video so that it remains private enough and okay with Michael to share it, whatever he feels comfortable sharing, whatever you feel comfortable with. And if you don't feel comfortable, then it's out. So yeah.
No pressure, right?
Actually, yeah, we'll see. It kind of goes in different ways just to kind of give a little overview. Sometimes I get shown a very specific lifetime with a lot of specific details, like the smell of grass, like how the smell of grass felt like at that moment or something, or how that person incarnated at that time. Like I could see his whole family tree or something, or I could see all the relationships, or I could see all the emotions they were going through at the time of something eventful. Or sometimes it's not about a specific lifetime, sometimes it's about something else. So for this specific reading, since we decided that the reading would be about whatever comes through that's like most needed, I didn't ask specific questions, although that's possible too, to ask a specific question like, oh, why am I having relationship problems, or why am I having money problems, or why am I having whatever other kinds of problems. So then, or like maybe I have a consistent disease like a migraine or something chronic, and then some people may be interested in like, why am I having this chronic disease all my life, what's up with that, what's the karma on that, or something like that. So that's also possible. But for this case, I asked your soul to come in. So I asked your soul and your spiritual team, and also all of your teams who are related to your Akashic Records, like your Akashic Records keepers, guides, teachers, your other spiritual teams who are relevant specifically to that. So I asked your soul and your team to talk amongst themselves and come up with what do they think that is necessary, is the best thing for you, the physical Michael Kopf right now, expecting Akashic Records reading. Like I asked them, you guys talk amongst yourselves and figure out what do you want to show him, even though they actually do that already anyway. But I do like to make it a formal expression of request, because I know that they already know that this is going to happen, and they already kind of, even they know that you and I are going to meet and we're going to do this together, and they know exactly what they're going to show. But I like to specifically request things like very, very explicitly, partly because I like to do things in a very aware way for myself. Like, why am I doing this? And where am I in this? And what am I asking? So it's a lot of it is for me, actually, to be aware of what's happening.
Permission.
Sorry?
I said it's always good to ask permission.
Yeah. Yeah. And showing respect to them. to your soul, to your spiritual team. So yeah. Yeah, and I also do a forgiveness ritual with your soul before I do anything, and I work out some mutual karma that we may have. And I just thought you might be interested to know that when I asked you to forgive me, your soul to forgive me for whatever it is that's standing in between us from other lifetimes or something, I saw this. A dolphin come up and go like from a water, and he went like, okay, your forgiveness, you asking us for forgiveness has been acknowledged, and we're forgiving whatever it is that needs to be forgiven. So just like your connection to dolphins, to water a lot, but this is not a surprise, you already talked about your connection to water.
Right.
And yeah, so it's not something only I saw just now. And before I did before I did the reading, like a day before, I felt you in some kind of space, which was like water. It wasn't a planet, or was it a planet? It was so confusing, but it was just a lot of water. And there was a hill that's coming up from water, and it's nighttime. Everything is night and like space and dark, and the water and all the lights there were kind of indigo blue, and very similar to actually how you have surrounded yourself with the colors right now. Your back, the thing in the background, and your t-shirt, the dark indigo blue things. That's how my whole vision of your Akashic Records was, in those colors. But I didn't see the yellow with the door. I just minus the yellow. And yeah, that was such a comfortable place of like just a lot of water. And I saw like a hill and some other hills in the distance, and just space and so much peace and calm and like comfort. A lot and I felt like it was coming from your soul. Like, this is how you make people feel, actually.
Oh, good.
And I'll come back to this space because like it felt really good to just relax and just go into the water, which was very welcoming. And it just it feels like some kind of a release can happen in the water, and just feeling like really, really, really like a release of anything, and just feels very free and comfortable and welcoming. Which has to do something with your the reading when I was shown it. So the way it started was I saw like a winter house, a house in the winter, and it's cold outside. And I felt you standing outside the house, looking at the house, and it's kind of, and again, everything is in the night, and the color of the snow is like light blue color. And you are standing outside a house, and it just feels kind of like being an outsider and not being in the house, and being in the left outside in the cold. But it feels like the house is actually you. Or it feels like something that's cool going on, it's over there, but you're somehow outside. And I feel like a lot of times you may feel like a welcoming place for others, where they feel like they belong with you. Like they feel welcome, they feel belonging with you, they feel comfortable with you, but yet it is something that you do not feel for yourself, or as yourself, perhaps feeling like an outsider. And that may not be all the time, but just a part of you that they decided to show at this time. And I saw a waterfall falling into an abyss, and everything is black again, and falling into this dark abyss. And it felt kind of heartbreaking because that waterfall felt like it was your expression of yourself, you speaking, you expressing yourself, your thoughts, your realizations, and things like that. But it was all falling into an abyss, disappearing into darkness, as if like nobody hears, nobody sees, nobody understands, nobody is just going nowhere. And there's a lot of water, and it's just all disappearing. And it just feels once again kind of lonely, unheard, unseen. There is no interaction from the abyss back. It's like maybe I heard like not falling into the right ears or something. The right ears who would understand what you have to say, what you're thinking, what you're realizing. And stop me at any time. I just tend to speak, but like you can stop me at any time for whatever reason or anything.
No, I'm taking it in, and I'm just like, wow, I'm surprised because I can so far say I've resonated and can be like, yeah, everything so far. I'm like, yeah, spot on.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, because I don't want to go like 1 hour into speaking and they're like, no, nah, this is completely not me. I don't feel any connection to this. I'm like, oh, you then just tell me 1 hour ago. Anyway, yeah. So it just feels like that. Like speaking, but into nothingness, and it just feels kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's for nothing, and it feels tiring. But yet you're still doing it because it's a natural part. It's a natural thing to do, to express yourself, actually. So then I was shown more like the story is unfolding. So I was shown a gigantic cosmic avalanche. More like, oh yeah, the reason why is this happening. So shown this gigantic avalanche, like a cosmic avalanche. Everything's black, and you can almost not see the avalanche. Only like some parts of the shade are the light reflected of it can be seen, and like this huge avalanche is going at you, and you are just completely wiped out. And the size of you is like less than an ant compared to that gigantic avalanche. And it was telling me that at least in many lifetimes before, or not even lifetimes, but some kind of other experiences, incarnated or not incarnated in bodies, you have had experiences where there was a gigantic avalanche. The avalanche is a symbol, but an avalanche of force that just completely just wiped you out. And then it was like, oh, but why could that happen? Because at that time you were visible and you were open for interaction, and the avalanche kind of saw you. And that's why it could come at you and completely like obliterate you, wipe you out. And it just felt overwhelming and overpowering. And then your soul kind of made an agreement with itself. It said that, okay, I'm not going to be visible, and I'm not going to be open for interactions, at least a part of myself, because I don't want to experience this avalanche hitting me anymore. So, and this agreement I was shown, it was hidden behind kind of the veil of forgetfulness, or in other words, it's like in levels of your consciousness that are not easily accessible. like you some kind of deep levels. Sorry?
It's like they're compartmentalized and the doors locked.
I like to compare that to the computer and levels of access to your computer. Like right now, probably you and I are using the computer as users. So you log in as a user and you use all the programs. Or you can also access you need a special password to access the computer as an administrator. And then if you access it as an administrator, you get to edit the programs that are functioning in your computer. So you get to reprogram things. So when you come back as a user, you can work with a different computer. It's like you reprogramming yourself. But we need that password to enter the deeper levels. And you need different levels of passwords too to enter different levels of your consciousness and awareness of yourself, to access all of those programs, which are, like you as a user right now can't see those agreements, the rules or limitations that we decide that, okay, this is our program. So I feel like that agreement has been hidden somewhere, so you can't touch it, you can't play with it, you can't mess with it, you can't change it. And also, preferably, you don't see it and you don't know it. But now because they're showing it, they're like, oh, it's okay, you can see it and you can know it because at this time, it's okay to do that. So you're getting like your administrator access to your programs. My father was a programmer, so.
It makes perfect sense. And right now I am in a position where it's exactly like you're saying, is files that I have not been ever known existing are becoming in my awareness, and it's like I'm slowly starting to find like the command to open the files to see what's in, but still it's a challenge, but it's like, yeah, it's starting.
Yeah, and I've seen that part of it also. It was in the resolution part of what they showed. You are actually doing it, the resolution, but I think they want to say keep going. So yeah, there was a part of somewhere hidden an agreement that I will not be visible and I will not be open to interaction. And so there is this heartbreaking situation where a part of you wants to express yourself and, have interaction back, which is a natural thing for anyone, not even people, but plants, any non-incarnate beings. I mean, that's a natural thing, that like a natural need that we have. And it's like, well, you're not being seen and you're not getting any interaction back. And that feels like suffocation. I was actually feeling like I was suffocating. And I had to open the window in my room. But I know that I was just feeling the suffocation because it's like, I'll explain later. But it's like life feels suffocating if you can't have this natural interaction going on of you expressing yourself and the interaction coming in. And I was seeing you as walking alone up a mountain, and it's just like night again, and it's darkness, and you're alone, and you keep walking up this mountain for a long, long, long time, and you're just, using a lot of your energy to do that. And it's heartbreaking because I felt like the mountain is you, and you're on top of it, and you're kind of climbing, and in a way, you don't even know that you're climbing towards yourself. It's like you have decided to disconnect yourself from yourself and almost like forget who you really are. and I feel a lot of us have done this anyway, but like you're feeling like you need to go somewhere and get something and reach something, but actually you're walking on this mountain, which is you. And it's heartbreaking that there is a disconnection, that you don't know that that's what you're doing. And it feels kind of pointless or endless and really hard and not seeing any results. And then another way I was shown it was of water, and then there was a lot of fish swarming. Like you sometimes see in a pond when someone's feeding fish and there's just a lot of fish swarming on the top of the water. And like you're somewhere, one of these fish, and I'm hearing safety in numbers. So it's like it's really hard to see a particular fish and catch it if you're in big numbers. So I was shown like you may be shining, expressing yourself only to an extent that is kind of similar as everybody else, not standing out. Because if you are shining to the same extent as everybody else around, then you won't be seen. You won't be noticed. But then it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, you won't be seen and you won't be noticed. But then there's safety in numbers and safety in looking the same as everybody else, looking the same as every fish. So I won't be the target of violence. I won't be the target of anything unpleasant. And that took me to like a bigger example or picture of that, how you're kind of suppressing yourself. So I was shown you on a motorbike going really fast, and I was shown that you have this kind of capability of just kind of like allowing yourself to be released, like a release feeling of like, and when you do that, somehow you can physically do things that would be identified as miraculous and impossible by this physical people that we live with. And when you released yourself, and I know it sounds so funny, releasing yourself, but you released yourself in your heart somehow. And what happened was you started flying. You're holding on the handles of the bike, and you started just floating, and you're just floating, and the bike is going, and you're floating, and you're enjoying this because it's a fun trick to do. Like you're going on the bike and you're just like floating like Superman behind, because you feel so free and you released something like yourself. And you're just floating, and it's just happening, and then it feels amazing. And you do that, and you're actually doing it in front of a gigantic crowd, like a football field or like a coliseum, and there are a lot of spectators. And what happens is the spectators get angry at you because they see that he can do this, which is a miracle, which is not, it shouldn't be done. It shouldn't be allowed to be done. They start getting angry. First, there is fear because, oh my God, who is he if he can do this? That like fear of like helplessness, because they feel like you can do this, you shouldn't be able to do this. There's fear, and there's also a kind of jealousy is not the right word, but more like they saying it's not fair to all of us because there's no way we can ever do this. We can't. So it's not fair that he gets to do it, because then we will never be able to compete with him. Like maybe somebody else wants to do motorbike tricks, but they will never compete with you because you're doing this. And it's like too high of a bar. We will never compete with you, and this is not fair. You shouldn't be able to do it. It's not fair to us. We will never catch up with you. And there's this anger of how dare you? this anger and fear all together, they sum up in a violence. Let's destroy him because he's really screwing up with our balance here. He's just not playing by the rules. Okay. So that I see this really violent guy who runs up to you in a frenzy. He's really, really angry, and he has this knife, and he's just like almost superhuman anger or something, and he's just like about to stab you, and his full force is already on. And at that time, when his full force is already on, there's a kind of protection mechanism field of yours that works out. And what happens is the knife just goes directly in his head, and you're safe. So I'm asking the guides who are showing me this. So what's the problem? If he knows he's safe, why is he afraid to be himself? To express himself fully? And then they're like, yeah, but watch, this is just one guy. And then you in that vision become aware of a crowd who are all angry like this. And then there's another crowd kind of behind you, and you're just turning your focus. You're not turning your head, but you're kind of sensing it, that this anger is like an avalanche. Somebody is angry. Then they kind of communicate that, hey, look, there's this guy and he's doing this and we're angry at him. And then another crowd gets almost infected with that anger. And then that crowd is telling 3 more crowds. And there's 3 more crowds that are angry. And then they're all telling other crowds. And it is really like an avalanche. And you're feeling it behind your back. And you're like, I don't know how much bigger this is gonna get. There's almost like a darkness that you're sensing, but is not physically there. And you're like, I don't know how much bigger this is gonna get. I don't even know. Like, I can't fathom how much bigger this is. That's why I don't know that I can keep myself safe. So then let's just not even get one guy angry, because it all starts with one guy, with one crowd or something.
It's interesting because we'll tell people a lot of times, like with the paranormal, I will say, we have to be careful what we identify things as, because as one person labels it one thing, then another person follows that labeling it, and then another, and pretty soon whatever it is going to take on the mantle of what it's being identified as. And so we need to be careful about that. And it's interesting that it came through in the same way as you're describing.
Yeah. And it's like, it is showing your karma, like the experience you're going through and what you're working with, because it's like your story. And so I just recorded stuff in my notebook. I'm looking at it, just to keep myself kind of in check.
Glad you're reading that, because I could not read that.
That?
Yeah, that's like, it looked like images when you first showed it. And so I was like, I don't know what these images mean, but I'm glad she does.
Oh, I do have images. This is my notebook for my clients. So a lot of it has images like this.
Yeah.
Or a lot of images, because like they say, one picture says 1,000 words, right? So if I just draw it, I'll remember, oh, that thing. Okay, got it.
That's cool. You can do
that. Yeah, I'll send you the voice recording, actually, of what I was recording, because I was thinking, man, I don't know why I do this. I record things. I could have actually done this live, but this is my karma. This is what I'm afraid of. My fear is, I always think that what if my psychic perception disappears suddenly when I'm doing this? This is my fear of like doing it live. So I always do it maybe a day before or the same day, but a few hours before, and I recorded. And then I always tell myself, you know what, you could have just done it live. And then I'm like, well, what if everything disappeared at that time?
Another thing too is people don't think about is being just in your own space. You're more free to the experience, whereas if you're looking at the person, if they start looking away or looking like a dazed look, you're going to stop and be like, oh no, this is wrong. This is bad. And it's not. It's just they may be processing, but you're misinterpreting what their expression is. And yeah, so it can actually interfere.
Yeah. And that's what I need to work on. And I am capable of doing things live with only some of my friends who are also doing similar kind of work. So I just feel really relaxed and I do it live. I mean, I do this kind of stuff live with only a few people, but with other people, I'm like, oh no, I have to do this well ahead of at least a few hours before, because what if my psychic perception disappears? And it never has, ever. But there's always that fear.
Yeah, performance anxiety.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I am so afraid of public speaking. Yeah. We all have our things we're working on.
And in actuality, if you ever saw me in person, like if you see like a party where everyone's sitting and talking to each other, I'll be off by myself unless somebody engages me, and then I'll be like, okay, talking with that person. And then when that's done, I'll go back by myself. I actually am shy in nature, but it's like everyone's like, wait, you're a podcast host? You do public speaking so well. You do all this stuff and you say you're shy. I'm like, yeah, I really am.
Yeah, I understand that. And then when they ask you to join, you talk, and then they just get surprised, like, oh my God, you're like so amazing. You feel like people can open up with you probably, and but that they would never know if they didn't ask you, because you wouldn't like come up and be the initiator. And that's partly the karma. Actually, it's a bit of a mutual, like your problem is not the same but similar to mine, and they're not the same but they're different, but there's a connection. And I feel like there's a lot of similar this kind of stuff going on with other people, which your reading actually showed as a resolution part. So yeah. Oh yeah, so to continue with your story, um yeah, so you were kind of sensing a huge darkness that you don't even know how big it can get. That's why you kind of go like, okay, I won't even do one trick or one thing, which is not really a trick, but it does feel like fun. It's just you being you, and it feels fun and alive. So then that you decides that I'm not going to do even a little bit of that, because I don't know how big of an avalanche is gonna turn into. And I was shown a pretty cool sword which looks like this. Um do you see that?
Yeah.
So this is like your handle, and this is where you are energetically. And there are many tiny knives here as a part of the handle, which is a kind of barrier. And then the others are somewhere here. And it just feels like double protection, that not only is there a sword, but also there are many tiny knives, which are really keeping everybody out. So I was so shown this kind of protective sword. And then I felt the suffocation, which was like, you not being able to, it's like there was a desire to open the window, but also there was a desire for you to open yourself, and just feel free and express yourself and be actually seen and acknowledged by someone, something else. Um, even if that is you, and the thing is, you're disconnected from yourself. So it's like even if you're speaking to yourself, you're disconnected from yourself. So it feels heartbreaking that even kind of you don't feel it. And I'm getting to the concept of as within, so without, as above, so below. So it's like if you're disconnected from yourself, you're also in this physical reality, similarly disconnected from other eyes and ears. But the key here is not to shout to get eyes and ears. The key here is for your soul to be able to reconnect with your soul. So you are the one who sees yourself in more truth, and then the physical world will follow, where actually more of eyes and ears that are the right eyes and ears would see you and would have an interesting interaction with you, because that's important. It's not just the amount of eyes and ears, it's the right eyes and ears, the ones who can interact with you in a fulfilling way for you. Um, and then I said, okay, what's the advice for him then? And then the advice came in those words, which were surprising to me. It said, you are not the only one who can do things like this in the world, and the miraculous type of things. And there are other people who can do things that seem that would be considered to be miraculous. And I said, how much? I don't know. I asked for a number. How much? And they said, much more than you think. And I was shown a big, gigantic being showing me palms like this. And you are so small, you fit on two palms. And it's like you are keeping yourself small, this small. And I see that the being kind of has no head. And I'm like, oh, it's actually it's this whole gigantic being is you, but you're disconnected from yourself. So he's holding a part of himself, showing me this is just how much he thinks he is, or opening up to himself. But actually he's this gigantic, and the size was just huge, and yeah, but you're keeping yourself this small, and you don't even know that this being is you. This gigantic huge thing is you. So they said that we have a thing going on here where many people are also keeping themselves small in a similar way for similar reasons. And it's like we as a collective are keeping, like, what do you call it? Fulfilling our own prophecy of being small.
Yeah.
Of being small because we're afraid of the fear and anger in others who are going to come at us because we're different and like capable of more than the regular person. And then on the other hand, we are all kind of keeping ourselves small, disconnected from ourselves. So if somebody acts as something so out of, miraculous, we would be feeling that fear and anger and act in violence too. Why? Because we are not connected to our bigger selves. And that's why we have that fear. And we're the ones who are going to act out this violently. And it's like, we're the crowd that is, that we're afraid of.
Yeah. I also feel sometimes that I do it because I know they can't hurt me, like you were saying, I'm protected, but the people around me that I'm with aren't. And so to keep them safe, I keep myself small so that they don't become targets to try and get me.
Yeah, and that feels like that's darkness that you sense behind you is like, I don't even know how great it's gonna be, so I can't even like control it or something. So yeah, it could spill onto your family or whoever, I don't know, your loved ones. Um, yeah, but there, the guides were showing, and the guides, I mean your guides, my guides, and the Akashic Records guides. And yeah, so we are as a collective kind of supporting. I wrote it, upkeeping and supporting this illusion that we are small. So as long as all of us keep acting small, this whole thing is going to keep going on, and all of us are suffocating who are keeping ourselves small. Or we are all not being truly, fully ourselves. We're not truly living and experiencing and having joy from everybody is not necessarily would be same as you, where your thing is seems to be releasing yourself, and for different people, I don't know what it would be. Everybody's different, but we're all keeping ourselves small, and we're all keeping ourselves small on different levels of consciousness that we don't even know that we're doing it. That's why we start to get all angry and upset, or whatever is our reaction to people who would do this. And then there was an interesting thing that I was shown. It was like almost like two truths true at the same time. That fear of that you sensing the how big something is behind you, like the crowds growing and growing and growing. But it wasn't just the crowds, it was something big. And it was basically your inner knowledge, your intuition, you knowing that every single small person in that crowd is actually much bigger than what they look like right now, because they're keeping themselves small. So their true selves is much bigger. So there's almost like a confusion thinking that all of these people are actually combined and they're all gigantic. And there's an intuition that they are all bigger than what they seem. But then I'm hearing this word dichotomy. I don't know what that means. Dichotomy, is it dichotomy? Is there a word like that?
Dichotomy, yeah. It's almost like a duality where you have one thought, and it's like when you are, my understanding of it is like you have one thought where you're thinking this is what's going to happen, and everything starts going into motion to make that happen because that's what you put all your energy towards, and it may not have been what was going to happen. It's like a self-fulfilling.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not familiar with that word.
I can look it up.
It's okay. Actually, that's what you described. That's what's happening. Like your intuition tells you that they're all much bigger than what they look like. And then the dichotomy is that if their whole gigantic selves would see you, they wouldn't actually attack you, because then it would mean they're looking at you from that place of self-knowledge and connectedness to themselves. And they would know that, oh, I am not actually this small, I am actually this gigantic. And then they wouldn't actually feel the jealousy or fear or anger or not, those ideas of like, this is not fair. They wouldn't feel any of those things that would trigger violence against you. So it's weird things like, oh, I know they're much bigger. Their force of destruction is bigger than what it seems. But then if they are coming at you from that big space, they wouldn't attack you. They wouldn't want to. They wouldn't have that desire because they're coming from a place of self-connectedness. So it's a weird double thing happening at the same time, which cancels each other out or also multiplies itself. And so the attack is actually only in theory, but it wouldn't happen in practice if they are that big. They're because they're becoming from a place of love at that time. So then I was taken back to the abyss, where your water was going down into that, like not making a difference in the world, not being heard or seen by the right ears and eyes. And then the advice, because this was still the advice is, you're not the only one who's capable of such miraculous things. There's much more people like that, more than you think. Which amount? I don't know. More than you think. They're all doing the same thing as you, in different ways. They don't know that they're doing it because it's hidden from themselves. They hid it from themselves. And then the next advice was going back to that abyss, and I'm showing it what he can do. They're like that abyss that feels like you're just gonna fall down into nothing. They're like, make a step, and I'm getting is those things that you're talking about earlier about self-awareness. Like, make a step, and the moment you're making a step appears in nothing, in space, and you step on that, and you're stepping into the abyss, and deeper, and it's not going to be a forever amount of steps. It's going to be some amount of steps. I'm seeing like maybe 15 or something. And then the steps start getting more shallow, and the more you walk, they're turning into like a yellow whitish beach sand, and then I can see your feet in water, and it starts to feel really good. And there are no more steps. It's just beach. And you are, the moment you touch that water, that's only as shallow as your feet, you automatically kind of experience a kind of release of yourself. And you get almost like diluted in the whole giganticness of water, almost like cosmic proportions, which is you. Like, your soul is that gigantic. And I drew a symbol of that, of when you release yourself into the water. It sounds so funny, but I'm sorry. It's like a symbol of your whole self, the gigantic self. And like the dots that I drew is like the Michael Kopf that's aware of yourself now as being very, very small, like a palm, very tiny small. You would kind of let yourself go into yourself, and particles of you just kind of find their place in the big you. And then because they're all spread around, you become aware of just how gigantic and huge you are, and just who you are, and just what you are. And I feel like because those particles would be in different places, like water, like dilution of like salt diluted or sugar diluted in water, the fact that it was important that they would be all in different locations, and that there would be a kind of communication happening, just like how there are different parts of you, and this one's like that, and this one's like that, and the feeling of being completely free and actually seen and known by yourself, because you'd be seeing the whole of you, and you would be like mesmerized, like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like euphoria, orgasm, or everything at the same time. So they're like, the advice is taking those steps down, which you're already doing, but also I forgot this part. They're saying you're not the only one taking those steps into yourself. There are many people who are also hidden from themselves. They're also taking those steps. That's why there's not an infinite amount of steps. The steps get more shallow and then they disappear because everybody's actually on this journey as well, and we are all helping each other. That's why it's not a difficult journey as we think. And the more, like, if you take one step, maybe even like making this recording, because it's also a step for me, because I'm also afraid of public speaking. And thanks to you being here, I take my step too. Otherwise, I would be not doing anything publicly. And because there's no public recognition of this, there's less people who are who have access to, let's say, my services or your services, or your whatever interaction, whatever it is that we do. So it's like, yeah, you take, and then that would allow more people, whoever would be interested in this content, they would take action. That maybe they click the link or something and go like, oh, it seems like self-advertisement, but anyway, they might click the link and say, oh, I want to get my Akashic Records done, and then like maybe that many more people take that step into themselves and they resonate with it. And then they were showing like, you're not alone in this. There are more people like this. We're all keeping ourselves blind to ourselves. And we're all taking that journey together of releasing ourselves into ourselves. So.
And what's interesting is growing up, everybody would say to me, you should be a teacher. You should be a teacher. And I'd have guides and everything tell me I should be a teacher. And I was thinking, oh, teacher in school. That was like blocked to me and didn't pan out. And I was like, all right. And now I hear myself saying to people, like, they'll say, why do you do the podcast shows you do? Why are you so transparent? And I say, because if people are going through what I'm going through, they can utilize the show as a stepping stone or a guide to help themselves. And I was like, well, who does that? A teacher. And so it's like I'm using my shows to help teach people stuff.
Yeah. And that's like your steps into yourself. But also, yeah, I get lost in these wordless things that I'm seeing, but I think you understand it anyway. Yeah, and it's funny, actually, my mom was a teacher, and I swore to myself, I'm never going to be a teacher, because somehow teenagers don't connect with their parents. I don't know. And I happened to have been a teacher for 7.5 years at school, and I hated that job. And I hated the public speaking part. I was always anxious speaking to a lot of kids. It was like hell for me. So I quit that job because it was so scary. I always thought they're going to look at me and say, she's lying. And I am just teaching like multiplication, like math, like simple multiplication. I'm not lying, but I always had the fear that some kids would be like, she's lying. And she's just telling us all lies. And then all of them would come at me and actually like violently attack me. And I had that fear every single class. And every day I had many classes. Many times I had to fight this anxiety. Only later I realized, oh, it's because of lifetimes of such things. So I think that the kids would do that to me.
Get out there little pitchforks and little spears out of their desk.
Yeah, yes, pitchforks and spears. And I thought they're going to kill me. And they would tell everybody else, and they would kill me too. So every day I was going through this hell. And I was just teaching multiplication or like science and math, like, art. I wasn't teaching even anything about religion or anything. I was just teaching those simple things. I can't possibly be lying, can I? And then I was like, oh, I quit this job. I'm never going to become a teacher again. And now it's like, me and Chelsea are actually it seems like I am becoming a teacher, but now of something else. And it's so ironic. Like, I hated teaching and now you're going to be a teacher again. I left my teaching job only to be a teacher.
Yeah. A true teacher.
And I also said that I never want to be a programmer because my father's a programmer. So now I'm realizing I am actually teaching programming, but there is a subconscious levels of programming. Like, the two things I said I wouldn't become.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that too is, and when you think about it, both are true in that you're not a teacher because you're not, doing the school thing. You're not programming computers and stuff like that. So you're not like your dad. But at the same time, you are teaching and programming. It just didn't look like what we thought. And that's the funny thing about when people say things is we never ask when they say, oh, you're going to do this. We never say, what does that look like? We just naturally assume we know. And then it's like years later, we're like, oh, this is what you meant. Well, I could have saved a lot of time if I had asked this in the beginning.
Yeah. It's funny. I guess that's what you call a dichotomy as well. This whole
dichotomy, and it's a division into two contrasting things or parts. And so, you have one aspect, your thoughts this way, and they're fighting each other because there's a division when there shouldn't be a division.
Yeah. And for you too, like, oh, a teacher does that. Oh, I'm already doing that. I'm already being a teacher, but I always wanted to be a teacher. And I think I'm not a teacher, but actually I'm a teacher. I meant for your podcast. And actually, one of the things that I'm kind of, normally I don't step in and I don't ask questions, but I felt like asking questions at this time. And I asked, why did he create this experience and for what purpose? Your soul, Michael. This whole issue that you are in, but also we as a collective are in, the keeping yourself small and the keeping the illusion going, the collective illusion going, keeping this prophecy fulfilled. So why did he create this experience and for a purpose? Because from my experience, learning shamanism from my teacher, we do create our experiences. We are that powerful. We are that creative. We are that full of desire and curiosity. So there's always kind of like an answer. But why did he create that experience and for a purpose? When did he create this experience and for a purpose? And I was being shown again like visuals, which are my thing. I see you as this kind of old rooster that tells me that you have had a gazillion experiences before of this size. That means you're old soul. And I see you as a rooster, and like the rooster is holding a gun in its wing and shoots. And he's very curious because the rooster to me means he's shouting, like his voice is really huge. It goes like, rah, really huge. So the rooster takes a gun, which is even louder than his voice, and he is curious what will happen if he shoots that gun in space. What will happen? What is going to be the reaction? And it's like a cosmic rooster of gigantic size taking a cosmic gun, going like boom, making a gigantic noise, and wondering, I wonder what's going to happen. So, and then he suddenly sees a mountain, like a cosmic, everything is cosmic, a cosmic mountain. And it's just like black and transparent, but it's there. And it's like, it's there. And that mountain starts shattering. And it's just like when there are people that go walking in mountains and then they just curious, well, what's going to happen if I shout, and they shout. And sometimes there's an avalanche, or sometimes like they can listen to an echo or whatever it is, but they shout and they're, oh, what's going to happen now? So this rooster was like, I wonder what's going to happen if I make this big cosmic noise, boom. So then there's a cosmic mountain and it starts trembling. And then there's a gigantic cosmic avalanche and it just goes at you and obliterates you. And then I hear, but did it really? Because he still exists. So that was like almost an interesting thing that you were interested in. It's how your action, like a big action, what reaction is going to have. Also, it brought in a big reaction, which for some reason there was a kind of wisdom that you're seeking and experiencing of an interplay of sizes, of big and small. This avalanche was gigantic, but you are suddenly very small and you get wiped out. But then I hear, but did he actually get wiped out? No, he didn't. And then through this whole experience of this lifetime of collective, of similar kind of stuff, and I'm feeling it's not your only playground. You're also experiencing this in other forms, physical, non-physical, in different variations of it. And then when you get back to reconnecting to yourself, that gigantic being, I see you kind of becoming a second mountain, because you're realizing, oh my God, I'm actually a mountain. It's so hard to logically say how it happens, but you when you reconnect with yourself, you realize just how big you are, and then I see you almost like a second cosmic mountain, looking at the first cosmic mountain and saying and understanding yourself as a mountain. And also there was this vision of you walking up the mountain in the beginning of the reading. You're walking up your own mountain and you become this gigantic cosmic mountain yourself, but now you know yourself like more or something. You know yourself as a gigantic being, and you're standing there as a big mountain, looking at the first big mountain, going like, I see you. I know. I see you, mountain. I am also mountain. your wisdom like this. I see you, mountain. I am also mountain.
Yeah, it's interesting you point that out, because right now a lot of people are like saying, there's a storm coming. You got to prepare for the storm. And I heard someone say, and it resonated with me, and it's like a mantle that I took on. And it was, yeah, there is a storm coming, but I'm the storm. And so it's like, when you realize that, it's like, yeah, and it's like, there's a huge, like you're saying, a huge thing coming, but it's me. So it's like, I know I'm going to pull through. I'm going to survive. This form may disappear, but a new form will appear.
Yeah, you can't be obliterated. And there's a kind of wisdom that your soul is kind of curious and enjoying discovering for itself, or playing with, or I don't know. And like, I don't know what the right word is, but knowing it's the interplay of, I'm getting like the bigger my actions, the bigger I am. I wrote that down. The bigger my actions, the bigger I am. Kind of like that cosmic gun. And you're listening for a gigantic reaction, and the gigantic reaction comes, but then you become gigantic. So there's this interplay of interactions. And also I'm hearing, like, I heard, if you can think it, you can become it. And there's a kind of play of size or play of perception of size. And then at the end, I see the kind of the ending of it, which is to come. It's not like a prophecy, but it's like a logical resolution that I'm being shown a Colosseum, and it's a gigantic mountain again. And there are all these people sitting on the mountain, like a Colosseum or like a football field, back to the football field that was scaring you, where you were doing motorbike tricks. But now the people, all the same people, they're sitting there with popcorn, and they're enjoying, and they're calm, and they're enjoying the popcorn. They're enjoying watching you in the Colosseum do your motorbike tricks, and you're just flying around. You're just doing all kinds of miraculous things, and everybody sits there enjoying the show, and you're enjoying giving the show because you enjoy doing that, the flying around thing. And none of them feel afraid. None of them feel angry. None of them feel small. None of them feel anything. Why? Because at this stage, they have all reconnected with themselves, and they know that they all have some magnificent, miraculous thing that they do. And it may not be the same thing that you do, which is why they want to see you, because they're not doing that thing, but they enjoy seeing you because only you're doing that thing. And they all know themselves that, oh, I am big too. I have this wealth of stuff within me, and nobody's getting triggered. Nobody's getting angry. Nobody's afraid. They just know themselves, and they love watching your miracles and you feeling safe in there, like performing your miracles. So it's like an ending to that, a resolution to this journey. So that feels pretty cool.
It does. And it makes sense too, because it's showing, like, the way I'm seeing it is, the more comfortable I am in my true self, the more comfortable those around me will be in their true selves. And so it emanates out. And when I was afraid of it, the people would act out of fear and get angry and scared. Where when I go at it from the place of, yes, this is me, this is who I am, everybody around me is like, hey, this is who he is. This is what he does. Cool.
Exactly. Yeah, the change is inside of you first, and then you can observe it on the outside. And it's like I've experiencing similar thing where I was so afraid to post like social media posts what I do, because I was afraid that my family would get angry at me. Actually, also, like, there are doctors in my family, academicians, and it's like, oh, she's a shamanic healing practitioner. I mean, like, I was afraid they're gonna say, oh, she brings shame on the family, because how dare she do this while we were all being academics, and like, how can we have such a crazy person in the family who believes in woo-woo stuff, or thinks she does, whatever it is. And I was really afraid. And then slowly, I was healing myself through my shamanic healing, actually, practices with my teacher. And for years, it was at least 3 years of super intense healing, like super intense. And then I remember my husband and I were somewhere on the street, and we met somebody, and they said, what are you doing? To my husband, he said, oh, I'm a lecturer. Okay. And they said, what do you do? And I was so tired of lying, pretending that, oh, I'm a housewife and I don't do anything. I always lied like that. Like, I don't do anything. And I just said for the first time, oh, I'm a shamanic healing practitioner. And they're like, whoa, cool. And I'm like, oh, they didn't kill me. They didn't say I bring shame on everybody. But, and with PG release, I'm like, I don't know why I was lying all this time, pretending like I don't do anything. Yeah, like you said, the moment you stop being uncomfortable within yourself with being who you are, then the outside reacts in exactly the same way. Oh, you're that. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I can interact with you as that you.
And the other thing that comes with it too is we had the fear of losing, like you were saying, like the family may be unhappy and pull away. And I had that, I actually lived through that. And one of the blessings I got out of it was family is not defined by blood. Family is a choice. And your true family will be who you choose it to be. And the rest will come and go. And there's a freedom in that and an enlightenment in that because I used to, like were showing, being under the radar because I didn't want to lose what family I had left. And then when I realized, if this is going to cause them to run, they were not my family to start with. And letting go of that and embracing it's like, yeah, some people started falling to the wayside and falling off, and some stayed, and some were just like, as long as you're doing this, I'm fine. As long as you don't bring it here, but you can do what you want, just, and have that mutual respect. But it's like, yeah, you start to realize, yeah, that you don't have to be afraid of who's leaving because people will leave and people will stay. It's their choice. It's your choice to allow. And there's a freedom that came when I realized that and going, wow, and started putting myself out there more and realizing, yeah, people are interested in this and I don't have to hide over fear of losing family because family will be there through thick and thin no matter what. And so if I go out there and make a complete fool of myself, they're going to be like, hey, I bet you had fun doing that. And
Yeah.
if I succeed, they're going to be like, hey, I'm glad you're out there, succeeding at what you want to do. They're not going to judge you. And so it's like there's a freedom that comes in learning that, we have a choice at who we determine our family as. And I think that's another like dichotomy that we're going through is, we're struggling because we label so many things and expect them to be such a way that it's like when they're not, it's like, well, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. They, just aren't resonating where you are. That's not your fault. That's not their fault. And there is where the true lesson I found that I learned that, like you were saying, burst me open was, yeah, I didn't have to, I wasn't at fault. They weren't at fault. It just was what it was. That's it. Don't need to look at it. Don't need to do work around it. Just accept it and move on.
Yeah. And I learned the kind of a similar thing what you're talking about with my own kind of colors, which is what I love about experiencing the examples of the collective, like different people experiencing a similar thing, coming like for example, as they say, coming out of the spiritual closet. That because everybody does it in a different way, and they experience it in a different way, and they get different lessons out of it, and then we can share all of them, and we can appreciate all of these different colors of the same action that we're all doing. And for me, it was I was in let's say in the office with a lot of teachers, and I couldn't share this stuff, like my spiritual experiences, with people at work, because I knew that I'm probably going to get fired, because you won't be taken seriously by parents who would be like, this is who's teaching my kid. I'm not comfortable with that. So then, of course, the school will have to let you go. So I never talked about it. And I remember it was like always those things, like somebody would ask you to go out, and you go out with them and you feel really bored there. And just like, I felt like dying. Going out with people I really didn't resonate with, but I thought I have to. And I was thinking, why are they all so boring? And then later I realized, well, Olga, you came there pretending to be someone else. You were shining a particular light, or you were saying something about yourself, presenting yourself, or wearing a particular mask. And you were telling people, this is who I am. And naturally, it's not their fault that those people were attracted to you who were similar to what you said you were. But in your perception, in Olga perception, they're boring. But it does not mean it's true. It just means to me that they're boring because they don't have similar interests with me. So they say, who's the liar here? Who's the pretender? You came to this community wearing a mask of someone who you're not. And then you complain that they're boring. Then take off that mask. Yeah. It's not a fact that they are boring. They're having the time of their life, perhaps doing whatever they're doing. It's just that I don't understand it because I don't have that connection with what they're interested in. So it's me, the original person who's lying is me. I pretended to be this person who I'm not. So they're like, so stop pretending and just say who you really are, what you're really interested in. And then it's like a lighthouse that starts to shine the right color, like the real you color. And then the others, like the family, and I feel that is my actually truth, like soul family. Not necessarily DNA related family, but those people would be like, oh, there's that light that I find attractive. Let me go fly there. If they're being true to themselves, we're all going to fly to the lighthouses that we are and interact with the people who actually feel like life. And the more we remove the masks from ourselves because we believe that, oh, I should be this or I should be that, the more we release those self-imposed masks, the more true our light is, and the more relevant the people that see us become. And that's a journey I don't think is done in like one step, but like in your Akashic Records reading, they said it's a number of steps, but it's not an infinite amount of steps because we're all taking them together. So that's the cool thing.
And one of the other things too is we realize we need to realize is we script outcomes. Like when like when you and I were saying, oh, if people knew this, they would, do this. Well, we scripted that because we don't know what they would actually have done. We made it that way. And so I got a freedom and an awareness when I was going to be on a project and, and I was going to be around family that, I don't want anything that I don't interact with. And they're kind of toxic to be around. And I was like, oh, I don't want, to be in this. And if we're operating in this area, I'm not going to feel safe and all of this and that. And, I went up to the person in charge of the project and I said, what will happen if we're in this area and somebody comes up and says, oh, I'm with so and so, can I come on, and join in? And he looked at me and he goes, if you don't want people around, then we'll have them on a list that they're not to be admitted. And I was like, really? Doesn't matter who they are? He goes, no, if you don't want them there, they won't be there. And I was like, wow, I was like, there's a freedom of that, because it's like, there was no, well, why don't you want them around? Why, explain, defend why you don't want them. They didn't care. They just were like, hey, if you don't want them there, they don't have to be there. And it was so, like, my perception of things altered, because I was like, I always felt like, boy, if I said something, I have to defend it because it's not a normal statement. And when I didn't have to, I was like, wait a minute. I wonder now how many things in life where I thought I had to do this, I didn't have to. And then I stopped scripting that I'm going to have to defend this.
Yeah. There is a something they say in the Russian. I can't translate it to English, but there is a joke kind of when somebody figures out a better way of doing something or a simpler way, the other people are like, I could just do that, In my language, it sounds funny, but that was allowed, that was allowed by whom? Who is allowing or who's not allowing?
We in America, we'll use the saying, nobody told me that was an option.
Who is to tell you that, right?
Yeah. Like, wait, that was an option? If I had known that, I would have picked that and been years ahead of practice.
Yeah.
So yeah. So all of you watching now, you just got a cheat code.
Like no one has to say that it's an option, and yeah, you can do that.
So you're welcome for saving years off of your work.
Yeah. To anyone who watched till the end of this conversation, I feel like actually it wasn't only an Akashic Records reading for you. It was like a collective Akashic Records reading. And because they knew that we would be recording this, so they also picked something that's relevant. So I'm very grateful to all our guides. I'm grateful to our souls and to our guides and to ourselves who chose to do this. And no one told us not to, or no one told us that we should, or it's an option. We just doing this. I hope it inspires freedom and self-discovery. And if you guys want an Akashic Records reading from me, you know where to find me, because this is a YouTube video with a description box below. It has my links there. And Michael, would you like to mention what you're doing and what people can find you and contact you for?
Sure. So first off, though, I want to thank you for this opportunity. And like you're saying, my guides and guides for the Akashics that I didn't even know I had. And so thank you to them. And if you want to find me, you can find me. I have a website. It's Michael Kopf, paranormal investigator and podcaster.com. And I'm on YouTube. And I'm the host of The Energy That Surrounds Us, Tetsu, Riding Through the Unknown, and Paranormal Verses. So if you look up those shows on YouTube, you'll find me. and I'm on Rumble. I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Instagram sometimes. But pretty much, you can normally find me easiest. The website has all the links to me on it, so that would probably be the best place to go. And yeah, I am so glad we got to do this, Olga.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I'm looking, and all your links gonna be in the, of course, the description box in the video. And I'm really looking forward to our meeting in a few days for your podcast. So I bet we're gonna have some cool stuff to talk about with you.
Oh, I'm quite confident of that.
Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for coming. And thank you guys for watching. See you later. Bye bye.